Live from the World Trade Center offices, we are proud to present Growing Global 2020. Now, here is your host, Debbie Monterey.
Welcome to Growing Global 2020. My name is Debbie Monterey. I'm the co-host of Total Information AM on KMOX. More importantly, this is my 16th year as MC of Growing Global. 16 years! But obviously this is my first time hosting from the beautiful studios of HEC Media. And while I will miss seeing your many smiling faces in person, I am grateful that we are still able to hold this important meeting in a safe and creative way. Greater competition in recent years has driven companies and communities worldwide into a more direct confrontation and cooperation. The July 1st implementation of the US-Mexico-Canada agreement is one recent example. Now faced with an unprecedented disruption to trade, migration, and cross-border investment as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the structures underpinning globalization itself are being called into question. Today, with the help of some high-profile business and government leaders, we will analyze this rapidly changing landscape as St. Louis prepares for the opportunities and challenges of globalization in transition. Speaking of high profile, St. Louis recently welcomed its newest international addition, a German goalie with playing and working experience in every corner of the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, St. Louis City SC Sporting Director Lutz Fanenshiel.
Thanks, Debbie. Hello, World Trade Center St. Louis. I'm not from here, as you probably can hear on my Texan accent. I'm from Germany and I lived and played soccer all over the world. Now I'm proud to call St. Louis my new home. I lived in many vibrant cities, but I believe St. Louis has a very special flair when it comes to diversity and inclusion. I want to put my perspective into the city, not just through soccer, but also through the community. Thank you to welcome me and my family with open arms, and a special thanks to the World Trade Center St. Louis, as well as the St. Louis Mosaic Project for doing everything to make this city even more international.
Thank you, Lutz, and welcome to St. Louis. Boy, are we going to love saying that. Lutz! I cannot begin to tell you how excited my family and all of St. Louis are to have an MLS soccer team. Good luck to you and the entire organization. Now, before we jump into the program, the World Trade Center St. Louis wants to say thank you to the many sponsors who made today possible. This year, Growing Global international level sponsors include Bank of America, Bayer, St. Louis University, Boeing Institute of International Business, Bryan Cave Leighton Paisner, Centene, HEC Media, KMOX, Nestle Purina, St. Louis Economic Development Partnership, and the Boeing Company. Growing Global domestic level sponsors include Alliance STL, America's Central Port, and BKD. Finally, we have a strong list of regional level sponsors now appearing on your screen. Well, we have many more who have contributed to today's success. The World Trade Center St. Louis and its board of directors say thank you very much. Well, as we prepared for this year's event, a number of mayors from St. Louis's sister cities around the world wanted to share short video greetings. And what better way to remind all of us of the many important global relationships that we maintain? Let's take a look at one of those right now.
Seit nunmehr 60 Jahren gibt es eine wunderbare Partnerschaft zwischen St. Louis in Missouri und meiner Heimatstadt Stuttgart. Und ich möchte dies zum Anlass nehmen, um alle Freundinnen und Freunde, die diese Partnerschaft in St. Louis gelebt haben, herzlich zu begrüßen. St. Louis ist eine spannende Stadt in den Vereinigten Staaten, innovativ, gutes Wirtschaftszentrum, viele andere Aspekte des Lebens, die das Leben wertvoll machen. Und auch Stuttgart hat einiges zu bieten. Wir sind kulturell eine starke Stadt, unser Ballett hat Weltraum. Wir sind wirtschaftlich eine starke Stadt. Viele kennen die großen Marken Daimler-Benz, Porsche, Bosch und so. Und wir sind eine Stadt der Vielfalt und des Multikulturellen. Ich freue mich über diese Partnerschaft und möchte alle Vertreter der Stadt St. Louis und die Oberbürgermeisterin Crewson ganz herzlich einladen, wenn Corona vorbei ist. Das ist ja jetzt für uns beide das Hauptthema, nach Stuttgart zu kommen, das Jubiläum zu feiern in unsere schöne Stadt, die auch eine Stadt des Weinbaus ist. Und dann stoßen wir miteinander an auf unsere Freundschaft.
Thank you, Mayor Kuhn, and congratulations to the entire St. Louis-Stuttgart Sister City Committee for celebrating the 60th anniversary of this special relationship. Throughout the rest of the program today, we will have a chance to hear from several other mayors of our sister cities, but now we have a chance to hear from our very own. Would you please welcome St. Louis Mayor Lyda Crewson. Mayor?
Thank you, Debbie. And thank you to the World Trade Center and St. Louis Economic Development Partnership for organizing the 22nd Growing Global event. This year takes on a new meaning and a new level of importance. What does globalization mean for St. Louis? Why and how does St. Louis connect to the world at a time when the risks and rewards of global connectivity are debated? This is exactly why I'm glad to see the World Trade Center confront the topic head on with a distinguished list of speakers, including U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Mr. Christopher Landau, and the chairman and CEO of a company very important to all of us in St. Louis, Mr. Gary Kelly of Southwest Airlines. From bringing together families and friends to facilitating business interaction with customers, Southwest Airlines is literally at the heart of St. Louis's connectivity. In the midst of COVID-19, the airline industry is working to solve some of the more complex challenges of the evolving business environment and a global economy truly in transition. This is a crucial time in our history as a nation and as a region. This is a time we are challenged by some to disengage or retreat from globalization. I could not disagree more. Thank you for participating in today's important discussion and for your continued work in making St. Louis a more global community and a business center.
Thank you so much, Mayor Crewson. As you know, I'm a proud city resident myself, and we appreciate your leadership during these challenging times. I'd now like to welcome our St. Louis County Executive, Dr. Sam Page.
Thank you, Debbie. Growing Global has become such an important event for the St. Louis business community. It's an annual opportunity for thought leaders to discuss and debate the role that international connectivity has on our lives and on our economy. This year's theme, Globalization and Transition, is especially fitting given all that's going on in our region and in the world. Like Mayor Crewson, I am too looking forward to Gary Kelly's thoughts and advice, and I'm also interested to hear from the United States Ambassador to Mexico, Christopher Landau. St. Louis shares a special relationship with Mexico. St. Louis's ties to the Hispanic community are deep and stretch back to the early 1830s. Today, more than 15,000 Mexicans call St. Louis home. And the economic connections have supported investment and trade, making Mexico the second largest export market for St. Louis companies. The new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement will benefit our businesses by further opening foreign markets for trade and high-paying local jobs. I congratulate the World Trade Center and the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership for their hard work in developing such a robust and meaningful program that everyone can attend safely. Thank you for joining us this year, and thank you all for all that you do to further internationalize St. Louis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Page. We truly do need everyone in the community to champion a more global, diverse, and welcoming St. Louis. And right now, I would like to welcome the Executive Director of World Trade Center St. Louis, Mr. Tim Nowak.
Thank you, Debbie. We truly are living in unprecedented times. Over the past 30 years, we have witnessed a trend toward greater economic, cultural, and technological interdependence among nations and economies. Trade and capital have flowed across borders. People have become highly mobile, pursuing opportunities in new lands. The global economy was born. Although we all intuitively felt that our world had become smaller, our work at the World Trade Center witnessed examples of it daily. Now we have to ask ourselves, has COVID-19 and the great worldwide economic lockdown made all of that history? Will pandemic-enhanced protectionism put an end to globalization as we know it, or are we merely on the cusp of a less draconian new normal? What sort of system will rise from the ashes? No matter your perspective, globalization is a potent force, transforming our societies and commercial activities in countless ways. Companies and communities find themselves mandatory participants in this new global market. And while all cities are affected by globalization, not all are seizing its benefits. In St. Louis, I am proud to note we have chosen to embrace it. In our work, we frequently talk about the three key equal ingredients necessary for any community to be a competitive global city: people, trade, and investment. We need talent from around the world. We need our businesses selling their goods in markets across the globe. And we need foreign companies investing in St. Louis. From our work in launching the St. Louis Mosaic Project to our leadership in bringing the Brookings Institute Global Cities Initiative to the region, the World Trade Center has placed a priority on people, trade, and investment. And our commitment in time and resources is bearing fruit. St. Louis is one of the fastest growing metro areas for foreign-born. 2,800 local exporters now account for 10% of our region's GDP. And foreign-owned companies employ more than 50,000 St. Louisans. And just last week, the St. Louis Federal Reserve released a report exploring the link between immigrant workers and U.S. trade activity. The results show a strong positive correlation between the two, findings that may have important implications for the future design of both international trade and immigration policy. When we talk about people, trade, and investment, what we really mean is talent, jobs, and economic growth. COVID-19 will reshape the very notion of globalization. We are already seeing this transition take place. Like many of you, we were disappointed to cancel our June trade mission to London and Stuttgart, Germany to celebrate the 60th anniversary of our oldest sister city relationship. But the virus will not end globalization. We are irreversibly interconnected world, both through advanced technology and human engagement. In May, I saw firsthand one example of the importance of our global engagement when the World Trade Center accepted a donation of 30,000 surgical masks from our sister city of Nanjing, China. We were grateful to receive the donated PPE for our community and small businesses, and it reinforced the value of St. Louis's global relationships. For the sake of our future, we will continue to be engaged and competitive in this new global reality. Whether it's local entrepreneurs such as Shane Perpeisel or Thorstein Holt, founder of Holtec Gas Systems, or working with our economic development partners to promote St. Louis's ag tech leadership, these stories reinforce the fact that we are leveraging globalization to our advantage, and we are all benefiting from it. Take a look.
For my job, I get to brag about Missouri, which is a phenomenal thrill and an honor to be able to do that. And a lot of that work we do in partnership with the World Trade Center, St. Louis. There's been a phenomenal amount of connection between the UK and Missouri. Incredibly strong, similar strengths in industry, aerospace, manufacturing, innovation, agriculture is a huge one.
We have a strategy domestically to market St. Louis for ag tech, and then the World Trade Center really takes that message international. So one of the methods they do to make that happen is they create a lot of foreign delegations. companies that are interested in coming to St. Louis to check us out and see if they might want to come here, they set up a lot of those programs.
We work a lot with the World Trade Center, not only because a lot of their population are immigrants from other countries, and of course a lot of our membership base are immigrants from Latin America. Our common cause that we both have is around immigrants. I went on a trip with the World Trade Center to develop trade with Argentina, and pretty much the day we were coming back, I said, I want to do a trip to Mexico. And so that's how we partnered to end up going to Mexico to do a trade mission. So we were able to meet quite a bit of people and able to create some deals like Hotech Gas.
Meetings were set up for me so I could meet with high-level purchasing people within different plants that I would not have been able to make appointment with on my own. So that was really helpful. So the trade mission was a great success.
I think the biggest successes in the last year are probably there's got to have been 6 or 7 of these delegations that we've been able to host here in St. Louis.
We had a hugely informative trip on the Agrotech E mission to St. Louis, which has had a clear and positive influence on our strategic plans for the next few years. And it was a very valuable learning experience in terms of new technologies and understanding of the information and connectivity needs of agriculture in the region.
With each successive one, it allows us to strengthen our partnerships. Here, we add partners. We have more of a cohesive message. We can really present ourselves as a community. When those companies come and invest and relocate here, we can all kind of take that win and be proud of that.
We continue to see interest from companies around the world who want to come to the Midwest, who want to come to Missouri. And so this state has so much to offer.
By attracting folks from around the world, by making St. Louis a destination, has definitely allowed our business to grow. Our whole business is being able to provide to an international audience, and St. Louis has just gotten so much more diverse. It's really allowed us to expand and thrive.
If you're considering to grow your business, exporting to Mexico and Canada and other places in the world, it's really beneficial, and you have the resources here through the World Trade Center and Missouri Department of Economic Development to help you out.
We are all focused on growing Missouri's economy for the benefit of all Missourians.
I, for one, can't wait to return to St. Louis as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you very much for that, Tim. As president of the World Trade Center Board of Directors, it's so encouraging to hear those stories of success from you and your staff. I'm joined here today by Mr. Rodney Krim, who is CEO and President of the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership and also the parent of the World Trade Center St. Louis. Rodney, thank you very much for joining us today.
All right. No, thank you, Andrew. And I really want to say thank you for being chair of the World Trade Center. You've been doing a great job. And we have a number of volunteers that volunteer for all of our boards and commissions under the umbrella of the partnership, and we really appreciate their service. Many of them are appointed by St. Louis City Mayor Lyda Crewson and St. Louis County Executive Dr. Sam Page, and we just appreciate all of that effort, that skill that they bring to these boards and commissions. We're really pleased that the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership has just elected Tracy Hart, President and CEO of Tarleton Corporation, to be our next chair of our board. And so we really appreciate that. She's already serving now and doing a great job. And we wanted to say thank you. We're wishing her well as we move forward. And we also want to say thank you to Carlos Ramirez, who is the past chair. So we really appreciated his work as well.
Very good.
So thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. My pleasure to serve. It's been a tremendous experience, and hopefully I'll be able to continue that experience. But so like everyone else, the World Trade Center team and the St. Louis Economic Development team has gone through quite a lot of disruption over the last 6 months, and all of us, I think, are getting used to working in a new normal environment. What changes did you make towards the organization in delivering the services of both the partnership and the World Trade Center?
No, thank you for asking that. I mean, when you say, thinking about March, it's about the second week of March, and everything was starting to happen, and we said, okay, what can we do that's in our wheelhouse to really help businesses? And we really knew that small businesses were going to really be impacted by this. So we said, okay, let's create a small business resource program to provide a hotline for them to call for help, show someone cares, and to be able to direct them to resources, and also to provide some funding directly ourselves through our lending products that would be favorable, zero interest type approaches with some very flexible terms, and then provide that kind of bridge to some of the SBA other financing that was being announced. And so getting together, we said, okay, let's use what we have, and then let's go ahead and see if we can get others to join us in contributing to this. We were quite successful with a coalition of 10 banks. A foundation also provided some money. Our local Invest STL provided some money. And the St. Louis County Port Authority provided some money as well. So all in all, we had about $2.8 million to direct toward small businesses. And that was very good because it provided them with some hope that, you know, good things were going to happen and that they could take care of some immediate expenses. And then our own Mosaic project provided some great service in terms of providing translation services to these businesses that needed some assistance with translation. And then we also looked at other products that we could bring to this, and we were fortunate working with St. Louis Development Corporation, going to the EDA and the Economic Development Administration, and getting some additional funds that we could provide to small businesses to help them through the recovery. And we're utilizing those funds now as well. So there was a lot of activity happening. All of our staff were fully engaged in this, in addition to their day jobs, in making this happen. The World Trade Center, through our Sister City program, was also able to work with Nanjing, China, who donated 30,000 face masks. And so then we took those face masks, and 15,000 went to the city, and 15,000 went to the county. And they were provided a critical resource at a critical time. All of our different initiatives, we have business centers, we have 4 business centers that we're responsible for, geographically spread out throughout the county. And so with those business centers, we have tenants, and those small businesses needed assistance too. So we were addressing their needs. Our 39 North AgTech program, innovation area, we were looking at what their needs are as well. And with that, we were making sure we stayed close to these small businesses to try to help them in any way we could.
And that's so important during times of trauma that companies, businesses, individuals know that there are resources that are available to them to help them and assist them and to move forward and to sustain themselves. How did COVID affect your interactions with other organizations and entities that are part of the St. Louis ecosystem?
Yeah, it starts from a foundation of trust. We all like each other. We get along together. We've done great work. We've known each other for a while now. And so, you know, when you're faced with something that is totally unprecedented, to have those kind of relationships was really key. And so with that, we said, okay, what can we do? And one of the things we said, well, we could share information. And so we kind of talked about it. Okay, what's the best forum to do that? Because, you know, we primarily serve the city and the county, but we also have all of our fellow economic development organizations on both sides of the river and going north and south. And so we said, okay, how do we involve all of them? So with the kind of center being St. Louis City, St. Louis Development Corporation kind of facilitated some meetings. We were early in and been in all the way through that as a partner with all of that and sharing a lot of our information through these forums. And then we've been getting some good wins out of that. We've been attracting some good grants to the region, and that's been very good. We're collectively speaking more with one voice than very different, separate voices, and that speaks loudly to the federal funders as well. And so we're doing a lot of great things. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that, you know, with the CARES Act money. The county received about 173 million or so, and part of that, about 17 million, we've been helping and partnering with the county to help get that to small businesses. And so we're doing that, and then St. Louis Development Corporation is kind of doing that with the allocation that the city received. So we're trying to do a number of things to try to move these businesses forward.
Right. You know, before even, you know, over the last 3 or 4 years, there's been sort of more of a growing nationalism, not only within the United States, but also within foreign countries as well. Countries and businesses being more inwardly focused to their home territories. How has that affected immigration into St. Louis? I know we're trying to grow our immigrant population here. And also, how has that affected our businesses from exporting their trades and their goods and services to foreign markets? How have you been able to react to that?
Yeah, so you hit a number of things there.
Yeah, it's a good question.
So, yeah, it's a good question.
Complicated.
So the thing I would say is a couple of things. One is that as a region, we still want to be able to attract companies here, and especially international companies. And we're very excited that working with the Alliance STL and the Missouri Partnership and the State Department of Economic Development, we were able to attract Accenture Federal Services here. And that's over 1,400 jobs that are coming to, in this particular case, into St. Louis County. But we were also excited that USDA announced that they were actually moving 1,000 people to the downtown St. Louis City. And so again, we're trying to make sure that these type of moves are increasing the attraction of significant organizations into St. Louis, our St. Louis region. We've had an initiative for a period of time where we've been focused on our initiatives in sectors of ag tech, our finance, defense, as well as advanced manufacturing. And so we've been doubling down on trying to help companies that are in those sectors, as well as other emerging sectors like the fashion. You know, we have an emerging fashion sector here that is consists of everyone from sewers to distribution channels. And so we've been working with them as well. So I think with all of that, we're looking at supply chains, we're looking at reshoring opportunities. I mean, you know, who knew that one of the staples that all of us was going to be critical to all of us would be bath tissue.
Right.
You know, but during this pandemic, you know, we were all like, can we get enough?
Commodity.
Can we get bath tissue? So I think everyone is looking at their supply chains and trying to determine kind of what's the best route for having foreign direct investment and having foreign companies locate here to help with that supply chain, as well as looking at reshoring kind of opportunities. You know, we are very much all in with our Mosaic project to make this, the St. Louis region, much more welcoming to foreign-born. And we know that economies that grow are more welcoming to foreign-born. And so we're trying to make sure that that happens here. And we're just excited whenever anything globally happens, you know, how do we connect with it? How can we bring that to St. Louis?
Certainly seems like you built a lot of great momentum.
Yes.
And I think the fear of everybody is that COVID may have slowed down that momentum. So that's nice to hear those sorts of success stories and where you're trying to focus and where you're trying to grow jobs for the region and give people opportunity to be able to start a business here in St. Louis.
Exactly, and you know, the World Trade Center has been great at this. I mean, they had to pivot as well as everybody else during this time period. And so, because a lot of their events have been more face-to-face, and so had to go, you know, virtual. And they conducted a re-engage in World Trade webinar. And that was widely attended. A lot of corporations and small businesses, small to large businesses participated in that. So that was very exciting. And so I think as we look forward, just being open to that innovation, buying local, being receptive to creative, innovative businesses and what they're trying to do. And we're also trying to attract, these innovative companies from across the world right here to St. Louis.
Ronnie, it's been a tremendous experience for me talking with you. Glad I got to spend my 15 minutes of fame with you. I would normally shake your hand, but we're not allowed to do that in these days and times, unfortunately. So I want to thank you for everything that you're doing for the city and the county of St. Louis and the region. And on behalf of business owners and business leaders, really appreciate the efforts and the great success that you're having. So,
no, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much for
that. And again, we appreciate all the work that you're doing as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Yukari Kaneko, the mayor of Suwa City in Japan. St. Louis City and Suwa City have been deepening our bond and participating in cultural exchanges such as the Japanese festival, since both cities became sister cities in 1974. In the fields of commerce and industry, the significant contributions are made by the interchange between both cities' junior chamber and the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Lastly, I hope that our friendship and goodwill continue to grow and that St. Louis and the United States of America as a whole will continue to prosper. Thank you very much.
Aren't these sister city greetings terrific? They certainly give us all a window to the world. And I love seeing the St. Louis flag in Japan. We now turn our attention to the recent historic transition from the North American Free Trade Agreement to the new US-Mexico-Canada Agreement. Now, whether you are a small business owner or a large multinational, this new agreement will impact you and our community. To better understand this impact, we now go to Mexico City, where we're joined by the U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, the Honorable Christopher Landau. Ambassador Landau?
Good afternoon. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to participate in the World Trade Center St. Louis Growing Global virtual event with so many distinguished guests, such as St. Louis Mayor Lyda Crewson and St. Louis County Executive Dr. Sam Page. I'd like to thank Tim Nowak and his team at the St. Louis World Trade Center for inviting me to talk to you about the benefits of the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, and what it means to businesses and the export community in St. Louis. I'm glad that many of you know the benefits of our bilateral relationship with Mexico. Last year, our commercial service team here at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City helped organize a successful multi-industry trade mission led by the World Trade Center St. Louis and the St. Louis Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Thanks to that mission, 25 business and civic leaders from St. Louis developed meaningful connections through matchmaking meetings and networking opportunities with Mexican private and public sector contacts, which included a reception in this very residence that I am now privileged enough to call home. So, as they say here, mi casa es su casa. As a result of these connections, companies like Holtec Gas Systems, which was featured in the video you saw earlier, were able to find new trading partners and increase their sales to Mexico by up to $1 million. Trade missions such as these are fundamental to our shared goal of increasing prosperity for North America. I think it's very important for people to understand that trade is very much a two-way street in which both our countries can benefit. Our bilateral relationship is highly complex, resilient, and dynamic, as we've seen especially in the last few months due to the worldwide pandemic. This relationship directly impacts the lives of our citizens on both sides of the border. We are inextricably linked on multiple levels. Mexico is the country with the most Americans who reside and visit there, more than any other country in the world outside of the United States. And the same is true of Mexico, where there are more Mexicans in the United States than in any other country. Similarly, Missouri's cultural and economic ties with Mexico run deep, with over 15,000 Missourians born in Mexico. 5 Missouri cities have sister cities located in Mexico. Our bilateral relationship has deepened and strengthened over the last 30 years, and commerce has been a key factor. In 2019, Missouri's exports to Mexico reached $2.3 billion, making Mexico the state's second largest export market. Firms from St. Louis accorded for over half of Missouri's exports to Mexico. The top products exported from Missouri to Mexico include processed foods, agricultural products, primary metals, and chemicals, which altogether account for over half of the state's export to this market. It's no secret that the United States is the largest contributor of foreign direct investment in Mexico, including investments by St. Louis's very own Build-A-Bear, Emerson, RGA, and many others. But what you may not know is that Mexican companies are also making significant investments in the United States. In fact, Mexico is currently ranked as the United States' 19th largest investor, with a total foreign direct investment of $42.9 billion. Nearly 82,000 U.S. workers are directly employed by U.S. affiliates of majority Mexican-owned firms. Some of Mexico's most dynamic companies, like Bimbo and Softtech, have chosen to make Missouri their home in the United States. USMCA will boost investments on both sides of the border and further deepen trade and investment ties between Missouri and Mexico. The relationship between the United States and Mexico has never been stronger than it is right now. The meeting between our two presidents in the White House last July showed that spirit, and I'm sure that this bond will help both countries as we try to recover from the economic downturn caused by the pandemic. After 25 years of NAFTA, USMCA is an essential modernization of our commercial relationship. It broadens and deepens our economic ties and reaffirms our status as the world's most competitive region. I'd like to underscore that this new agreement, among other benefits, protects creativity and innovation in intellectual property. USMCA also enhances protection for workers and the environment, including strong new mechanisms to ensure that these provisions are enforced in Mexico. USMCA is more inclusive of creative and digital industries that are essential to 21st century economies. It strengthens digital commerce and opens more opportunities for small and medium businesses, which play an important role in our supply chains and create thousands of jobs on both sides of the border. As we face the mutual challenge of the global pandemic, USMCA will be one of the necessary engines to move us forward, restart manufacturing and production, and give confidence to consumers and investors alike so that our economies can grow. We need to learn how to live in this new normal so that this health crisis doesn't trigger an even worse economic crisis. This new agreement gives us the perfect context to attract investments to North America and take advantage of the reshoring opportunities that were accelerated because of COVID-19, when many companies realized that the need to protect their supply chains and be close to home. It's a win-win-win situation for all three countries of North America because we all benefit from bringing investments back to our region, as it's better to have them here in our three countries rather than off in Asia and other far parts of the world. I'm optimistic about the long-term trajectory of this relationship and the future of the USMCA. There are certainly going to be bumps along the way, but they're the kind of bumps that you sometimes have within a family. But remember, the ties that bind us are always stronger, as is our desire to work together to benefit our people. This agreement is a confirmation that the United States and Mexico are on the same team and that we know we're in this together as neighbors, partners, and friends. Once again, I'd like to thank the St. Louis World Trade Center for allowing me to be part of this year's Growing Global event and share with you the virtues of the USMCA. Also, a special thanks to our Department of Commerce colleagues at the U.S. Export Assistance Center in St. Louis for all you do for the business community in this region of our great country. We look forward to our continued relationship working with you to further deepen trade relationships between St. Louis and Mexico. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Felicitaciones a World Trade Center y San Luis por su incansable trabajo para el fortalecimiento de las economías. El evento Growing Global 2020 es el resultado de ello. Rosario es un nodo portuario agroexportador. Además de la base económica agroexportadora, a nuestras ciudades nos une la convicción de que la innovación es el principal motor para el desarrollo económico y social. En Rosario unimos esfuerzos desde el sector público, privado y académico para crear un ecosistema de innovación ligado a la tech y a startups del sector. El vínculo y el intercambio de experiencias con San Luis ha sido muy importante para fortalecer esta visión. Estoy seguro que seguiremos tendiendo puentes de hermanamiento entre nuestras ciudades.
Well, we are absolutely thrilled to have joining us for Growing Global the chairman of the board and the CEO of Southwest Airlines, Gary C. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, thank you so much for being with us today.
Debbie, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Well, certainly we want to know what you think and what business leaders think as governments and companies start getting back to business as much as they can. What are you looking for, hoping for, expecting as far as improvements go as we're heading into this near future?
Well, that's the key word, improvements. I think we're all hopeful that we'll continue to see very sound, solid federal policy, supporting our economy. It's interesting. You look at the broader U.S. Economy, and there are winners and losers in that. So I'm a guitar aficionado, and my wife was telling me this morning that Fender guitar is recording all-time record sales. So I think it's just interesting how people are adjusting, to this crazy time. But obviously, we're hoping that consumers get back spending in a broad way. We're hoping for continuing improvements in employment, which is key to that consumer spending. Hoping that corporate business confidence returns and investments start taking hold again. But our assumption is that we're going to continue to see a pretty sluggish economy here, certainly through 2020. And then we've got reasonable, I think, modest expectations for improvement in 2021. I think a lot of it, Debbie, is just predicated on what does one believe about the end of this pandemic. And we're hopeful that we'll see a vaccine. We've got pretty darn good news, on that front. See a vaccine by the end of this year, and that by mid next year we see sort of a functional end to the pandemic, and then behaviors begin to change in a much more rapid fashion in the second half of next year. I think that's going to be key in really getting our economy back to life. But in the meantime, I think the government support is also critical. The CARES Act kept us, in my opinion, out of a depression in this country. So I'm grateful that we live in a country that has the wherewithal to step in and provide that kind of liquidity and stimulus. But we're not done, and we're not through this yet. So hopeful that the two parties can work together to get something done here, to get us through the end of this year and well into next year.
Well, you mentioned some of the business winners. Certainly Zoom has been a huge winner in this pandemic.
Yes.
We have certainly seen the benefits of technology and allowing people to stay home and work remotely to protect their health. Some people love it, some people don't. It has definitely had an impact on business travel. So looking ahead, as things do start to improve, do you see business travel improving, or do you think that a lot of companies are going to see this as the new normal, working remotely?
You know, that's another thing that I'll just use the word again that I'm grateful for. The technology has enabled us to actually function in this environment. And I just marvel at what our company's been able to do, but we're not alone. Companies around the globe have been able to move very rapidly to a virtual world and to conduct business remotely. So that's a good thing. On the other hand, as you point out, in our business, you know, we want people to not live virtually. We want them to live in the real world and to get on an airplane and go somewhere. People want to travel, and I think it's whether it's for fun, for leisure, for personal reasons, or for business. There's no question that I think we've all experienced that there are alternatives to traveling. But, you know, it kind of reminds me of September 11th. There were a lot of pundits that said people will never travel again. And then you have the advent of the internet back in the 1990s, and, you know, business travel will go down, and every time that proved to be wrong. So I think it will be a long recovery, and history would show that in a recession, business travel is cut very sharply, much more sharply than consumer travel. And it's a very long recovery period. And my recollection is 08, 09, it was even longer than normal, probably 5, 6, 7 years. But it did recover, and it's expanded to all-time highs as of 2019. Same was true in 2001, same true back in 1991. At this point, I would expect a very long recovery period for the reasons that you mentioned, and on top of that, we just have an economic recession underway. So businesses will get back on the road, and it will be different, but nonetheless, I think you'll see a very robust travel again at some point.
You mentioned recession and 2008. Are there any similarities, do you think, between the recession of 2008 and what's happening here in 2020 that could be helpful to businesses trying to plan their way into the future, or policymakers even?
There are some similarities, but it does feel like there's some pretty significant differences. But certainly in terms of the learnings from that recession, it was the worst one in my lifetime, and arguably the worst recession since the Great Depression. So it was tough, and it was rough, and it was a financial crisis, as we all know, and therefore, you know, the healing needed to take place primarily in the financial industry. Obviously, we were all impacted because it was difficult for us to access capital during that time period. So I don't think that the tools that the policymakers used then apply as directly this time. But it at least provides a bit of a blueprint for the need to have a sovereign step in and keep the system from failing. So I'm an advocate for that. You know, one could argue that we should simply let businesses fail and avoid having a zombie-like environment where you have a lot of companies who haven't made necessary adjustments to the new world, and you're simply sustaining an inefficient industry or sector without having winners emerge from that. But I think in these really extreme scenarios, and this is the worst we've ever faced, certainly since World War II, And I think I do applaud the federal government, certainly the Congress and the administration, for stepping in quickly to do the CARES Act. Whether it was done perfectly, sector by sector, is certainly debatable. But it kept the country out of depression, and I do think that was a learning from 2008. And I think it's worked pretty well so far. I think the challenge is what we were looking at in March and April. It was a wild guess on what trajectory this virus would take, and then what effect it would have on the economy. Now, 6-7 months in, well, we have a much better idea, and we're not close to being out of this yet. So, back to my earlier point, we'll need to make sure that we put the adequate support in place. Otherwise, I fear that the CARES Act 1 was a waste, because you'll simply have spent that money, and now you'll have a lot of failures. Well, what we need to do is make sure that we avoid all the failures. And you take a company like Southwestern, there are thousands of examples like this. We were very healthy coming into this, and so was the rest of the airline industry, for that matter. But for this virus, we'd be having an all-time record year. So it would be a shame to let industries, sectors, companies, absolutely dissolve into oblivion through no fault of their own. That would be a very, very difficult thing to recover from. Huge job losses, and so we need to do everything we can to avoid that.
I want to get back a little bit to travel, and we talked about business travel, and we touched a little bit on consumer travel. I think that people are tired of being home, and they do want to get away. They do want to travel, but what do you think it's going to take to get people to do that again? And are you sensing a pent-up demand for travel on the consumer level?
Yeah, very much so. And again, I'm a believer that this too shall pass. If you go back to the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, 1919, it was followed by the Roaring 20s. So this too shall pass. We put a man on the moon 50 years ago, so we can defeat this virus. It's just going to take some sacrifice. It's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to take a lot of effort. But people definitely are ready to get out and do things. They're ready to have events. They're ready to go to sporting events. They're ready to go to concerts. So at least there are elements of our economy that have reopened to a degree, but certainly not back to normal. You just look at the school experiences here this fall, the NFL, how the NBA is working. We're not back to normal. Maybe a year from now, we'll have events that people can travel for. So I do think that's part of the answer to your question, is the events and the comfort in gathering together needs to be restored. So it's going to take a while, and that's what needs to happen, is people need to be comfortable. What is encouraging is, at this point, our business is about roughly 30 to 35% of what it was a year ago. Now, back in the really bleak days of late March, early April, it was 2% of a year ago. So we've at least recovered to the degree that we have. And what I find is that when I talk to customers, they have almost universally told me, I was nervous about flying. And once I got to the airport and was served by your employees, got on the airplane, I was comfortable. So we're getting very high marks from the customers who are flying in terms of the experience. And I think that that word is getting out. Obviously, we've invested a lot with a multi-layered approach to making sure that the flight experience is safe. But fundamentally, it's back to what we were just discussing earlier. We need a vaccine. We need to functionally end the pandemic, and then I think people will broadly be comfortable that they can get back to normal behaviors. And that's just going to take a while, but at least we're seeing gradual improvements, and I think that's encouraging. We are largely seeing leisure travel, very little business travel. When we talk to our very large corporate managed accounts, where we can have a conversation about what they're doing and what their plans are, that business is off substantially. And a lot of companies have rules, thou shalt not travel right now. And it's not so much because we can conduct business virtually and it's more efficient. It is more, we just don't want to take the risk of having someone get infected. And that makes perfect sense to me. Again, it just gets back to let's crush this virus, and then we can get all this behind us.
Well, Southwest has been extremely important at St. Louis Lambert International Airport, obviously the #1 carrier, and that has been increasing each year. Can you give us any insight into how St. Louis might play into future plans for Southwest?
Well, I love St. Louis, and Southwest loves St. Louis, and again, it's a real honor to be a part of the program here this year. I started in the 1980s, right at the time that TWA was acquiring Ozark, of all things. And TWA had a huge hub there, and we were very small. I think after that merger or acquisition, we were the second largest airline in the market, even back in the 1980s. But we were a little bitty, compared to big TWA. What's interesting, of course, is American acquired a TWA, and the hub is no longer there. But I would argue that St. Louis is better off with Southwest Airlines as your hometown carrier, because you get more people flying in and out of St. Louis than you do with a hub carrier who are simply transiting people through St. Louis. So at our peak last year, we had 134 daily departures, which easily put St. Louis in our top 10. And 49 nonstop destinations. So hopefully that's an indication of our commitment and really our love affair with St. Louis. We have a very good route network. We have excellent people in the market, and excellent relationship with you have a fantastic airport director, and the political leadership we enjoy working with very much. So once we get past this crisis, I would expect that St. Louis will continue to be a very strong point of service for us, with a very significant focus, and one that I would hope we can continue to grow for many, many years. So it's a great market. It's a great city. I'm a lifelong Texan, but I have a real affinity for Missourians. So we're just very grateful to be a part of the community.
Well, now that we know how you feel about St. Louis, let me ask you this, because Chicago Midway and Nashville are both big Southwest airports as well. So what can we do to be even better than them in Southwest size?
Well, you have a great community. You have, I think what makes for a great travel destination is when you can drive traffic both ways. So you have a thriving community which will generate business travel, leisure travel from St. Louis, and then make yourself as an attractive destination as possible so that people want to come to St. Louis. And when you have the flow going both directions, that just makes for a very, very powerful airport opportunity or airline opportunity. And I feel like St. Louis has that. Now, what is interesting with Southwest compared to the 3 legacy hub and spoke carriers is we have a lot of cities that are like St. Louis, that are like Nashville, that are like Chicago, because we don't build giant hubs and connect you like a package through a central sorting area. We have a point-to-point network system, and we try to have more nonstop itineraries for our customers than our competitors do. And that means that we have a lot of cities that have a lot of flights, as opposed to just a handful of cities with a giant number of flights. So Delta in Atlanta has 1,000 daily departures. I imagine you've been to Atlanta and you know what that experience is like. It's nothing wrong with that. It's just we don't have anything approaching 1,000 daily departures. Our largest operations are in the 200 daily departures because most of our customers don't connect. And most of our customers fly nonstop. Therefore, we need fewer flights. So it helps it's more efficient in terms of the airline to operate that way. We just have fewer revenue opportunities on a given flight if we don't have as many itineraries as a hub and spoke carrier does. So all that has to be balanced properly, and we're expert at that. In fact, Southwest is the only airline in the world that we're sort of a category of one in operating that way. So I don't think there's anything that you all need to do. Just expect that you'll see large numbers of flights in Denver, in LA, in Oakland, in Chicago Midway, in Nashville, Baltimore, on and on and on, which is very different than Brand X. And St. Louis is right in the mix of all of those. So you all will definitely continue to be a prime focus area for us.
Well, one last question before we let you go. It's always big news in St. Louis when Southwest adds another direct flight to somewhere. Do you want to break any news here today for us?
I will look forward to that. Let me tell you, right now, our overall flight activity is down about 40%, from a year ago for all the reasons that we know. That is a more robust schedule, though, than any of our competitors are offering. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that during these tough times that we still serve you and your community very well, meaning that you can get where you need to go. So we've been very careful about trying to avoid eliminating itineraries, even if it's on a connecting basis right now. We've lost a lot of traffic on our existing city pairs, and I would call that depth in a market. So pick St. Louis to Dallas, or St. Louis to Chicago, St. Louis to Florida, whatever it might be. We still have those lanes open, but there are just fewer people traveling. So I do think that we have an opportunity here this year and next year to add more destinations and increase the breadth of our system and generate more revenue, which will be helpful to our business. It would also be helpful to the St. Louis business community. So we are planning to add Miami International Airport to our route map, following along that strategy, as well as Palm Springs. And so when we're doing these things, we will always have an eye on St. Louis to see when we're adding these, if we can't get a nonstop to begin with, can we at least have an itinerary where you can fly, hopefully your favorite airline, to these new destinations. And the neat thing about Southwest, and I guess the thing that's frustrating about 2020, is that we had all kinds of expansion opportunities opening up to us over the last 5 years with investments and transformations that we were making. So we were serving about 100 markets and have the potential to add in North and South America another 50 to 70 more, and quite a few right here in the lower 48, so to speak. So so stay tuned on all of that, and I think if we can just get all this behind us, we'll get back to buying airplanes, hiring employees, adding flights, and welcoming you on board to a very safe and clean flight experience.
Well, we will have some people flying Southwest from St. Louis because we have a Southwest gift card to give away before the end of this program. Gary C. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today at Growing Global 2020. It's been a pleasure.
Debbie, and thank you again for having us. Appreciate all you all do.
Greetings from Galway City. I wish you well on your event this evening. Of course, it's a very difficult time for all of us as we fight this pandemic. In Galway, of course, we're also still celebrating our European capital culture, so we're trying to balance what we can do and what we can't do at the moment. We've also relaunched our programme for Capital Culture 2020, going into next March now, so all going well, there's some events you can join us virtually. As we, I suppose, battle this pandemic, whilst I speak to you here from City Hall, I hope that one day soon, before my term as Mayor of Galway City finishes next June, that I can join you, of course, in St. Louis and celebrate with you in person. Until then, I want to wish you all the very, very best. Wish you and your families good health, stay safe, and keep well. From all people. Stop.
Well, from Germany to Japan and Argentina to Ireland, from Mexico City to Dallas, Texas, we have truly traveled the globe today to better understand the impact of COVID-19 on international trade and investment. I would like to thank Rodney Krim, Ambassador Landau, Gary Kelly, and all of our speakers for their time and their thought-provoking comments. Thank you to our sponsors and HEC Media once again for their generous support. Now, before we sign off, there is one more important thing we need to do. In honor of our featured speaker from Southwest Airlines, the World Trade Center St. Louis is giving away a $200 gift card to one lucky participant. So a drawing was held of all the registered attendees, and the winner is Tony Stafford of the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council. So the WTC staff will connect with you, Tony, and make sure that you get this gift card delivered to you. So thank you, Tony, and everyone for joining us for today's Growing Global 2020. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next year.